So we have 3 rolling mills in the studio. This is a plain rolling mill. It's just for rolling sheet. We also have a combination rolling mill that rolls sheet and wire. And a little bit later in the quarter, I'll be introducing you guys to using that. And then we have a larger rolling mill so that we can roll bigger pieces than a 3-inch disc. What you're going to notice in the studio is every rolling mill has a cover on it. And it has a cover on it so that the dust and the dirt that comes from a studio space doesn't get embedded into the rolling mill. So we made these out of some canvas. It's a great idea. I've had students call me and say, oh my God, my rolling mill is rusting. And I said, what do you have it covered with? Well, I put a plastic bag over it. Don't do that because it's going to hold the moisture in and it's going to rust. But we do want a cover that breathes to keep the rolling mills in good shape. So when you come to use the rolling mill, and Erin and I will be here probably taking the top off, getting everything ready to go for you, you can see that this rolling mill is 3 inches wide, and you can see that it's pretty clean and oiled so that we should get a nice pattern. If I took my metal and just rolled it through here now, it would get thinner and longer and stay shiny. But what we're going to do here is we're going to take my pattern, and this metal is annealed because I can bend it, right? So the bend test is what I always say to people. And I'm going to put these 2 together. And this is the tricky part. So I've got it sandwiched. And what I want to do now is I want to take the rolling mill, and up top here are little arrows. And arrows tighten it down, and now it's completely closed. And now I'm going to open it back up so it's clockwise because I'm standing on this side. And I'm going to slide it in between the 2 rollers, and then I'm going to tighten it down until I can't pull it out. And then what that means is the 2 rollers are now just the thickness of my metal and my paper pattern. So I'm going to back it out, and to get a good roll print, I'm going to look at my handle and I'm going to turn it a half turn. So what that means is it's to take this side and do that. Okay? Each type of material you roll through there is going to have to be adjusted a little bit. But I've used this watercolor paper before, and I know that a half turn works. Someone tried Scotch-Brite, and I said, oh, Scotch-Brite's not going to work because it's plastic and it's not going to print. It actually did print, but since it's so squishy, we had to turn it about 3 times to squish it down to get any imprinting that's on there. So just a half turn to tighten it, which means the space here with the roller is smaller than the thickness of my sandwich. I'm going to come over here, and I like to start with my handle up top so that I can push and I use my body weight. So I'm going to hold this right in here, and I'm going to put it in there, and I'm going to pull it through. And that was a little bit of an effort, but you can see that I've got my diagonal patterning here, and that they match, and they're a little stiff right at the moment. They took on the curve of the rolling mill, but you can see, and you can run your hand over that. That's enough definition that if I took this to the buffing machine, I probably would not remove that material. Okay, should we try rolling this stuff on it? Okay, I don't know what it's going to do. If I really wanted this to be a project and test this correctly, I probably would anneal this stuff again, but I'm not going to for demonstration purposes. And then I'll say, oh darn, I wish I had. But I'm going to dump this on here. So I sent students out to think about different things that you could roll print with, and a student came back with stuff from her spice cabinet. And so she had little sesame seeds, and she had other types of not finely ground spices, but things that had chunks to them, and they printed really beautifully. What I found is most organic things have some rigidness to it, and that'll print, and most plastic things don't. But I'm going to take this now, going to put this on top here. They're flying away. If I used rubber cement to put these down, the rubber cement would actually make a print. So a smart student one time decided that she was going to use rubber cement as her pattern. So I'm going to tighten this just a little bit more, maybe quarter turn, and then put this through here again and see if I can get anything to have happen. And oh, now I've got confetti, which is kind of pretty interesting. So once again, if I turn it this way, or not this way, now I've got what's called matchbook, 2 parts, flip them open. Woodworkers do that a lot when they do cabinetry work and marquetry work. So I'm cleaning up all my little pieces because I don't want the next person coming through to roll print my pattern that's on here. Question here might be, why did I only turn it this much? Because I knew when I put these back together they might not line up, and that thickness that we'd already rolled would have an impact on it. So we did still get some interesting pattern, and what's even more interesting is one side's more interesting than the other. Like there's some really nice things happening here. So when you're thinking about the rolling mill, think about what you can roll print with and the materials that you want. You could take a piece of metal, punch a bunch of holes in it that's work hardened, and use that as a pattern if you had more than one idea. But roll printing is really just a fun way to start experimenting with adding layers of texture on your metal. And once again, one time through the rolling mill might be what you want, but doing multiple times could be a much more interesting result that's there. So I'm done. I've made sure that I've cleaned up my paper pattern stuff, and now I'm going to put the cover back on my rolling mill. About every couple of weeks or so, we'll probably come through here and oil this a little bit so that it doesn't rust. I know that when the facilities came in and did cleaning in here for the COVID, that some of the tools in the studio are starting to rust a little bit. But anyway, that's kind of my quick and simple roll print demo. Come to me, ask questions, ask Erin if you bring material in that you want to roll print, and we can try that out and experiment.